Okay, so the recording is on now, and basically, we can speak in any language. I mean, I'm comfortable in Hindi or English. So let's. So basically, see, I have been seeing some, documents floating around, and some people who are giving their feedback. Let me just open one document I received this morning from actually a member of one of our own groups, and I'll just open it up. I've not read it fully myself, but I just had a quick look at that. Let me just open it in the Google Chrome window itself. Okay. Suggested points for UCC. So I hope this document, I mean, if you're on a mobile screen, it may be difficult to read, but it should be visible. Anyway, I will just speak, the points which are there. Let me just, increase it even more. Okay, I guess now it's a little bit more easy to read. So basically, suggestions for uniform civil code. This is a document which somebody has sent from one of our own human rights groups. So you can understand that this is prepared by men's rights people and people who are suffering from all these issues. So I guess let's have a review, because I think this should be a good starting point as to what we can or not discuss. Because I think some people had this doubt that what all can be discussed under Uniform Civil Code. So that I think is pretty much anything to do with any family law matter, whether it's maintenance, alimony, child custody, succession. I guess succession basically division of property from parents to children and whoever are the heirs. So these are very different based on personal laws. So personal laws basically mean based on your religious affiliation or as per the law, whoever you claim yourself to be, Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Jain, etc., etc. And even in that, I think several communities, they have the similar laws. So Hindu, Sikh, Jain, I think they are governed by the same personal laws. So, but still, because of these multiplicity of laws, there is confusion. Public is not very much aware as to at what, in which situation which law can apply or should apply. So, Uniform Civil Code, I think there are multiple Supreme Court judgments also where the Supreme Court has said that, or even High Court judgments will be there, where they have said that this is a important amendment to the laws, and it was already part of our directive principles of state policy in the Constitution. So it should be brought in, sooner rather than later. So from that point of view, there's not going to be any constitutional, challenges in the sense that if any constitutional challenges are given based on these already judgments which are there, they will be easy to tackle because Supreme Court has already given the stamp of approval that the lawmakers can proceed. So in our discussion, let us discuss more on the men's rights point of view, because many people sometimes when they send a question or email or WhatsApp or whatever message, sometimes I see this point that what is my right? So I believe they're asking what is my right as a man. So compared to if I was a woman, then of course I will have women's rights, but since I'm not, so what are my rights? So basically, let's start with a John Doe has joined. Okay, let's start with the basic, thing as to husbands, mostly husbands. There may be other people also, but I think UCC is more for married situations. So it is not about false rape cases or false 354 or false molestation, etc., etc. This is about matrimonial things. At the same time, since it says very clearly that Uniform Civil Code, so I'm highlighting that point. So it is for civil cases. Now you may want some amendment in 498A or whatever, but um, that will not be part of this um, lawmaking provision. So let's keep that in mind, and let's have a look at this document which I have seen, because once we go through this, then maybe I think I can proceed to the document which I had prepared. And it is an open document, public document. Anybody can add points to it. You can paste your points into it, no problem. So I think first point is good, but maybe the drafting can be a little bit differently done. Basically, what it means is that when the grounds for divorce are proved by husband, whether it's adultery or desertion by the wife, alimony or maintenance should not be granted to wife. So, or at least even if you want to grant, the amount should be not the same. It should be much lesser. Obviously, we will not say that it should be more, because adultery already is the ground for denial of alimony. Maintenance is difficult because at the time of trial, interim maintenance is granted. That's a whole topic by itself. So I think this is a valid point. Um, Second point, special provision of suo moto. So I believe suo moto, that's what is meant. To file perjury case and false petition, false evidence, false affidavit is exposed by the opposite party. So again, you're going into CRPC 340 and all these IPC 191, 195, etc. All these sections. So we can discuss on that, but it will maybe we can come to it later if people are interested, because this is not topic of the Uniform Civil Code, because it's for criminal law. It's a good point. I mean, no doubt about it. But let us focus on the what is under consideration of the committee, because if you send too many of such points, your important points may get hidden, buried in the main points. In the extraneous points. Point number 3, equal provision for equal punishment for false cases, abusing law processes. Again, it's a very generic comment. Already provisions are there. What improvement do we need in them? That is a point for lawmaking. Let's focus on them at the right time. Make gender neutral laws and acts and replace men, women with person, replace husband by spouse. Women can get punishment of rape on a boy as per POCSO Act. But so basically, I think the point is valid, that uh, make gender neutral laws as part of the Uniform Civil Code. So as a general point, there is nothing wrong in it. So it can be kept. There is no law for men who are facing domestic violence. Domestic Violence Act should be made gender neutral. Well, I think this is a good point. It may not be strictly under this, but then again, what about men who are facing domestic violence at home? Because there is one extra provision for women. So I think the way we can argue is that women at this point of time have one extra act which gives them certain benefits, including maintenance and compensation also. Why can't the same be extended to men? Whether it may not be possible to bring as part of Uniform Civil Code, but this should be a consideration at some point of time. So this is, I think, valid from point of view of maintenance at least, because if maintenance was not there, then uh, somebody could say that why should we discuss on this, because this is a separate act. Adultery and bigamy should be punishable offense for both the genders. Well, again, not civil code, so the point may be valid, but adultery anyway is not a punishable offense anymore. Bigamy is a punishable offense for both genders, actually. So I don't know why this. I think people have this confusion that women are exempt from many criminal laws because of some social media and sharing of various memes and all these news. Bigamy is an offense for women also, and I think there is one person in Gujarat. He was part of our live discussion also, and you can see his video on my YouTube channel also. He has filed a bigamy and a rape case on his wife. So how he is able to file a rape case, that you can check in that video. Women should be allowed to file only one type of maintenance case. At present, women are entitled to file 6 different type of maintenance case. I think this is a very valid point, and even Supreme Court has formally recognized in Rajneesh versus Neha that a woman can file multiple maintenance cases. But logically speaking, there is no logic behind that. From point of view of justice, also, the only logic can be that sometimes you file a case and you forgot to claim some relief. But barring that scenario, why should we allow multiple cases? That doesn't make sense, right? And even if you have made a mistake in your one petition, let us say you didn't ask for a relief, maybe the provision can be to amend the petition. Amendment of petition can be allowed. Even recently, there was a High Court judgment of Kerala. I shared it yesterday, where they have allowed for amendment of the maintenance petition. So that can be done. I guess in these multiple cases across multiple cities, prima facie, it looks like a abuse of process of law and harassment of husband. But this point is very valid. Maintenance should be gender neutral. Men should also be allowed to file and claim maintenance and alimony from. Yeah, I think that's a good point. Under Hindu Marriage Act, there is already it is there. So this should be there. I think this is a good point. Forced financial settlement should not be allowed in matrimonial disputes. Well, yeah, this is a debatable thing. That what is force? Because when a husband signs on a MOU of settlement deed, and then they go for a mutual quash of 190 a day in the High Court. As per the law, you have agreed voluntarily, husband. So now you may say that I agreed because my parents are suffering. My case will run for 10 years. But that they will say everybody else's cases are running for 10 years. So what is so special about your case? So you may say no, I can't remarry for 10 years. That's my personal life and liberty. Well, fine, that's a good point, but then don't sign the papers. Our judiciary is the one of the best in the world. That's what is claimed to be. So you fight your cases for 10, 15 years. That's what the kind of thing is. So this point, I think, may not be tenable actually. As for it's not something you can put in a law draft. Responsibilities of wife during matrimonial life should also be well defined in Divorce and Marriage Act. This is an interesting point, because as of now, I think there is no such thing as a responsibility of wife in the bare act, like Hindu Marriage Act. For husband, I think there are multiple responsibilities like maintenance under Hindu Adoption and Maintenance Act, and various other CRPC 125, which are secular in the sense that they are for all communities. So this is an interesting point actually, because I think right now the only recourse is cruelty. But so what is cruelty? That is not defined in the Hindu Marriage Act by itself. So you have to go for the judgments. Basically, Hindu Marriage Act will only mention some points that no reasonable person can live with such a spouse, whether husband or wife. So let's come to this point later if we can. On divorce, distribution of assets should all be done only as per the respective financial contribution for acquiring the assets. Now, this, I think, it may look to be a very good point, which will save husbands, but I will tell you the problem, because the problem is this is actually the default law in the various, US, UK, and various countries, where during the marriage, whatever is earned, or rather, whatever assets are acquired by husband and wife, whoever acquires them, it doesn't matter, whether the wife buys a car or husband buys a car or a house. At the time of divorce, they will be divided equally. So whatever you have to sell off or share them equally. And that's where that meme which was floating around on internet, some Brazilian or some man, his car, he has cut it into half and giving half of the car to his wife. So that was a joke on practical kind of scenario where he is trying to mock the law as it stands. So here this I think we have to think a little bit more deeply. We can probably study the law of US and other countries as to this thing, because many people, many husbands, they are going for a house. Let us say they take on EMI when they either before marriage or after marriage. Now, what will happen to that asset? It is on loan, so you sell it off, and foreclosure, you will lose a lot of that money. All those issues, we have to think about. So, so this point, if we agree, then I think the whole maintenance alimony, everything has to, it will upend the whole structure itself. Because right now the maintenance and alimony laws are also there because there is no division of property on divorce under Indian laws. I think the Goa Civil Code, the Portuguese Civil Code, which was applicable even after they left, that still has something similar, division of assets. So Stridhan concept should be abolished in Marriage and Divorce Act. So first of all, I think Stridhan is almost like an independent. It's part of Hindu Succession Act. I covered it in one of the live Q&A. You can go through that video or just search for Hindu Succession Act, Article 14, I think it mentions over there. Because if you read the Hindu Marriage Act, I think the word Stridhan, you will not find it there. So you can just check if I remember correctly, because I think I did that exercise. I was trying to search for the word Stridhan. I could not find it, in any of the laws except for Hindu Succession Act. So my take on this is, yeah, this is a good point. What can be done at least is that any Stridhan which the woman has got, a wife has got from her family, that she can claim, no problem, But anything which has been given to her by the husband's family after marriage, now that by default should not become her Stridhan as per the current law. Immediately there should be some time limit. So, like for alimony, if there is 10 years or 20 years, so there should be a time limit. If you're married for 20 and 10 years doesn't mean that you left the husband after 1 month and then 10 years your divorce case is running in the court. So 10 years of marriage, 10 years of married life with the husband family. You know, uh, because the whole concept of Sridhan was to protect a woman from financial situations which they may arise. But you get the husband's jewelry, 5 lakh, 10 lakh, 25 lakh, whatever, and then run away. File IPC 406 case on you, false IPC 406, and then you say, okay, this is the law, so I am entitled to it. So let's stop that entitlement. That whole it's a big loophole in the law which was not discovered. I mean, nobody knew about it earlier because everybody thought that marriage will be forever. So this point, I think we can definitely. I think if you combine this with property assets, then I think it's a good point, because if you allow women to have you know equal property division from parents, then if you have equal property division on distribution of assets on divorce, then when everything is being equal, and you are allowed to work and earn and everything, nobody stops you. Then why should this special Sridhan concept still remain? That can be one argument, because this Sridhan concept has come from the Hindu laws. How there's a traditional culture of women having their own Sridhan, especially in the form of gold and jewelry. That was a major kind of thing. So this was a financial security for them. But if you are giving financial security by other means, like division of property in the parents' property equally, distribution of assets upon divorce, let us say if that proposal is adopted, then there is no need of Sridhan also. I mean, uh, well, of course, but gifts I think can remain. So if you receive some gift from somebody, uh, that is your property. I mean, but you don't need a special concept like Sridhan, because even a man has his gifts. So that becomes his property, right? On first day of matrimonial disputes in courts or police station, child access right should be granted to fathers by default. Well, yeah, I think this is like a shared parenting thing. So this is not a bad point. Uh, you know that basically, yeah, it can be part of shared parenting and shared custody. For child visitation and access, the filing of child visitation petition should be abolished. Should not be mandatory requirement. Okay, this is a procedural thing. I think this can be made simpler, I guess, or very routine, probably. Filing criminal cases against husband and in-laws should be a ground for divorce without deciding its merits. Without deciding its merits, I don't think that makes legal and logical sense, because you know, for example, I know of judgment where I think in Hindu Marriage Act also, if a spouse is convicted of a crime and a serious crime, that can be a ground of divorce. And at least there is a judgment like that, a High Court or Supreme Court judgment, at least a High Court judgment. So if a husband is convicted of murder, now it is not cruelty on wife per se, that he has not done anything to the wife, but he has murdered somebody. But whether the wife can claim or vice versa, can the husband claim that my wife has murdered somebody? So I can't live with such a person. It's a ground for cruelty. But I think that apart this simply filing of cases without merit. So I think what you can do is there is a Supreme Court judgment which says that acquittal in 498A with if there are serious allegations. So I think that serious allegation point is the important point, because what if the acquittal happens but the allegations are very minimal? Then we are not sure, because whether that Supreme Court judgment will apply or not. Praval Singh ji is asking, are these our suggestions we are reviewing? No, this is not our suggestion. This is a suggestion I received from somebody in one of the groups and men rights groups. So we will review these and then we will go to a document which I have made. So anybody can add to that document. It's nothing. It's open access to everybody. So all the criminal provisions like Section 498, 376 should be abolished for matrimonial disputes. It is far-fetched. I think that is not valid, because sometimes, if your wife, brother beats you up, why can't you be allowed to file 323 or 325 on him? And as regards 498 days, there is a PL filed by some law students in Supreme Court, which has asked for a similar law of cruelty on husbands. So sometimes, the right way is that you ask for a similar treatment. Like if there is a DV Act, in this document itself, the person has asked for let there be Domestic Violence Act protection for men also. So same thing we can demand, like it need not be abolished, because a provision of granting maintenance and element to women with able body, educated capacity should be abolished. Well, yes, good point. Maintenance should be strictly given to avoid vagrancy and hunger. Incapable, handicapped women, okay, not bad. Uh, of course, these points are a little bit strong in language, but then it is like up to the person. If you feel strongly that this, yes, I want to, I totally believe in this, and this is a totally justifiable. So one should keep in mind, sometimes if you ask for something which is uh, has some merit, but then it can have some objection also. So, so maybe you can qualify it in a certain way. Hunger and vagrancy should be proved in court before awarding any maintenance. Okay. That will be very difficult to prove, I guess, going by what we have seen. The women should be cross-examined by husband before awarding any maintenance. So this is basically the interim maintenance, paradigm, which is basically, I have also said it multiple times. This whole interim maintenance paradigm is, without any evidence, and the cases run for 5 years, 6 years. So by that time, all kind of pressure is put on husband that another 5 or 6 years, or better, you give some alimony now. Already you have paid some maintenance. Better finish it off. That is not how law is supposed to work. We are not like somebody was saying. No, we are Indians believe in multiple lives, but that doesn't mean that judicial system should believe in the same thing. That you have multiple lives to infinite time. We don't have infinite time. We can't use that logic in our mundane things. Ancestral property should not be considered for distribution of assets. I'm not sure whether they are considered now for distribution, but well, this is a point for debate. I think this can be part of UCC. There should be a mandatory system for mental health support for alienated fathers and husbands facing matrimonial cases. Mental health support for alienated fathers and systems. So this is actually some kind of a okay. I think juvenile justice law should have same age treatment for boys and girls. There is already some discussion happening on this, that if both the boy and girl are below 18, then don't treat the boy as adult. If there is some sexual intercourse or something, consensual sexual intercourse. So I think that part is being taken care of already. Rape laws to be made gender neutral, not part of UCC. Draconian provision of Evidence Act, Section 114A should be abolished. I think that is for, again, for rape cases, I believe, and sexual harassment and these kind of cases. So let's not go into that right now. Practice of awarding interim maintenance of, okay, the same thing, interim maintenance, we should change it. That's a good point. Basically, you give interim maintenance for a time limit, let's say 6 months. And then you have you can't let it run for 5 or 6 years, because it makes a whole mockery of the, judicial process, that you have granted some order. And then, if the person has got some interim maintenance by telling a lie, I am not aware of a single case. Once in a while, we see some, but perjury, yes, perjury we have seen, but rarely we will see anything that once the interim maintenance has been paid, and it will never be recoverable by the husband. So, if a woman has got, let's say, 20,000 per month interim maintenance for 5 years, husband will never be able to get it back if he is able to prove later on that there was no domestic violence or there was no neglect and so on. So basically, time limit has to be there on decision of interim maintenance. Okay, fixed time period only like for 1 or 2 years. Yeah, that's the same point I was saying. NCW and WCD ministry should provide a training to women. I would say if the woman is already, most of the cases come to us, women are graduates, so they're already trained. Why should because if you put this condition, what will happen is they will say, "Oh, we are in the process of building that ministry. It will take a lot of funds, thousands of crores. Obviously, it will not be done. So let's make a simple demand. Let's. I think the first point is correct. And the second point, if you're not very capable, you can work in some Anganwadi community center. There are, I mean, so many jobs. And if you can't do see, every able-bodied person should be productive member of society. So you can earn some non-paying job. Go to some local community, where they are, any hospital, any local school. Do something, even if it doesn't get you paid anything. Because the problem is the maintenance is being paid to women who sit at home all day and do nothing, and they are highly qualified. They are, money has been spent by the taxpayer money to train them up. Because a lot of education is subsidized in India, so obviously it is taxpayer money, right? Okay, point number 28. When the husbands are incapable of paying maintenance, it should be paid by NCW or Women and Child Ministry. I think that point is a little bit too far-fetched. Let's not go into that. Let's go to simpler stuff first, because see, that's the reason I'm saying, so whatever points people send, you should choose the points which make it consistent and which you feel that you will stand by behind it. Because if you send too many points, hoping that somebody will get picked up, that's probably, it may not work so simply. Make provisions for men-related studies like mental health, prostate cancer, false cases on men, male suicide. That's more like National Commission for Men, I think. Male-related NGOs should be part of NDC, NDC for discussing provision of laws. So we are all part of men's rights group, so we are discussing it, and nobody is stopping us. So I guess there's no problem as such. Boys are being discriminated. I think child ministry can be separated from WCD. That's, I think, can be a point. But sometimes, because of pregnancy and these kind of welfare issues, you can't separate everything, because obviously the women are giving the children. So, but wherever there's bias or some, we can always find that out and make that particular demand. Now you were saying boys are discriminated, so this is a very topic by itself. You have to give some proof how they are discriminated. Then somebody will say, anyway, it's not part of UCC. Why you are giving so many points which are not even part of UCC? So let us focus. So I think point 32 is the same, that you uh, refund of interim maintenance, because interim maintenance is going on for 5-6 years, but there is no provision for returning of that money if it was found to be false or frivolous after the evidence and cross examination. So that I think is a judicial procedure, and all these delays and has to be. Maintenance alimony paid by husband should be tax and exempted. Okay. I mean, tax exempted by in whose hands? In the husband's hands or the wife's hands? Basically, probably you shouldn't be double tax it, I guess, or maybe don't tax it as husband's income, and then you tax it as wife's income. I think that is a good point. So he will save on that some taxation. So that point number 34 is the, if you combine these 2 points, if a woman receives maintenance and alimony, that should be taxable in her hands. So it will save tax on husband, and it will, the government will receive the same. They may receive less tax because the income may reduce, taxable income may reduce, but that's okay. For the sake of welfare, I think government will definitely forego a little bit of tax. But that's what they are for. Government is all for women empowerment. So 35, child who are receiving maintenance should contribute 10% to father's retirement fund when they become an earning person. Okay, this is a little bit need some discussion. This is not a simple point to discuss. So let's move forward. Child custody and visitation rights granted by courts should be published on their web portal in an attempt to show fairness. More than 99% fathers don't get any child. See, this is a over point, not just child custody. Actually, all the matrimonial cases, they have been, by the Supreme Court direction, the parties' names have been hidden, and parties are, so you can't find out, whose case is this. Uh, so if you want to do it for this, I mean, why not make the maintenance cases also visible for everybody, web portal, because let people see whether women are getting proper maintenance or not, because that's what, the laws are made, that women are destitute, they're not getting maintenance and whatever, But I don't think that because of privacy and these things, it may be a little bit difficult. So this needs some discussion, I think. This is not a very simple point. Okay, the same point, maintenance to wife and children should be published on the web portal. I think this will not involve the lawmaking actually. It will become, judiciary may get involved in this. So this will be a little complicated actually. Maintenance and alimony to be automatically suspended as soon as father falls below BPL. Well, see, BPL, if you fall below it, you can always file, for change, update of maintenance. The problem is people may think that, our laws are very difficult. There is always a provision in law, change of circumstance. You can file for CRPC 128 or 128 if it's a CRPC 125 case. So automatically, nothing is automatic. Even if you have to inform the court, okay, yesterday I was non-BPL, today I'm BPL. You have to give a memo and a certificate, some document. So, I mean, even that is not automatic. Nobody will come to know by themselves. You have to go to the court on the date, submit it. Maybe there will be objection. But yeah, BPL. How many people are BPL in our groups? I doubt it. This is, maintenance and alimony is a problem of the middle class and upper middle class. If you think about it, it's not of the rich classes. They have, it's a different. Then first of all, the rich people are not that many. So, it's not a problem of the majority. But so point 39, maintenance order should be automatically suspended when in jail, hospital, unemployed for more than 60 days. Automatically, again, very simplistic formula. You're in jail, in hospital, fine, I can submit. My client is in jail, unemployed. If you're unemployed, then the same logic will arise. Are you able-bodied or not? If you're able-bodied, legal, moral, and social duty. 3 words in Supreme Court judgments also. It's not that straightforward. So husbands with critical illness like cancer patients will be relieved from maintenance alimony. Okay, I think that's not a bad point, because if the wife is able-bodied and husband is cancer patient, I myself have seen one person in the court. Unfortunately, he died after a few months, who was a cancer patient. Uh, so these are like special points. Okay, DNA info should be part of birth certificate to avoid paternity frauds. That's, I think, a point of discussion by itself. But DNA itself is a huge, all the laws currently are very much to avoid any kind of paternity test, unless it's you bring some prima facie kind of proof. Okay, so there is a. I think people who have their questions they can raise their hand. I will go step by step once I finish with these points. DNA test should be considered as a litigant's right in matrimonial dispute. Okay, I think what we can do is maybe we can give this feedback at a point that where there's a question of paternity or something. Now what will happen is that if you see whenever you ask for a right, like DNA test, if I ask for it, I get it. Now if I get it, but what if child is found to be mine only? Then what should happen? So because in a way, I was so see if it's part of birth certificate, that's a different point. Then it's a mandatory thing. That takes care of all the section, whatever 112A, I think, for which doesn't you don't need to give any evidence. I mean, unless you have proved that you were not with your wife during that time of conception, you can't ask for any kind of you can't challenge the paternity basically. So that's the law as of now. So this is a big topic by itself. But I think if you ask for a right, then the opposite demand will also can arise that if you ask for it and it's proven that child is yours, then can the wife demand divorce and alimony based on that because it's cruelty on her, right? Because DNA test will be one way. I don't think a wife will ask for a DNA test because paternity is always the question mark, not the maternity, right? Point number 43. Okay, again paternity fraud. So let's move on. Child adoption law to be easy. Okay, child adoption, yes, gender neutral. It will be difficult. I think currently adoption laws, I don't think single men can adopt a child. So that will be that same, the mindset is there in society that men, they are good for working and earning, and for child taking care of a child and all those things, women are, more suited to that. And all talk of gender equality is not to be in these kind of discussions. Okay, 45, right to abortion without husband's consent and knowledge to be abolished completely. Without husband's consent and knowledge, I think consent is not required, but I think, yes, if husband can ask for divorce, I think there are judgments of that sort. So, I think at this point we need to check this whether this is allowed or not for husband to seek divorce if wife aborts without his consent. Equal paternity leave and child care leave, okay, fine. Punishment to police, okay, let's move on. Let's not discuss criminal and police. Prenuptial agreement, okay, I think that's a good point. So prenuptial agreements are not valid in India. Now that we are going in for UCC, can we bring prenuptial agreements as part of the law? 49, entire okay, fine. UCC will be entire part of India, in entire India. Applicability for all citizens, okay, fine. Right to equality, okay, that's already there in Constitution. Article 21, okay, that's just a reiteration. Gender equality in the implementation of Uniform Civil Code, okay, fine. That is a general point basically. Point number 54, various aspects of prevailing matrimonial laws deprivilege men. Today we are in 21st century. Okay, fine, it's a general point. Point number 55, using the word spouse instead of men, women, or husband, wife can help every gender. Okay, fine. I think this point was there even before. So there were some good points. I think crime and police, those points can be removed. Other points, they may be good, but you have to change the language if you want to qualify it, because sometimes if you ask for a very strict or very tough demand, then it's easy to counter it. Because whenever there is some qualification, somebody can say, you ask for this, but what is this situation? Then what will happen, to the woman or to the wife? And you don't have a good answer for that. Then they will say, okay, let's keep it on the side for now, because what you're asking is a little bit too much, and it doesn't take care of these situations. So I will go to the question now. So somebody has raised their hand. You can ask the question. I don't know, unmute or mic. I hope everybody can unmute themselves. Uh, turn on the microphone. Yeah. So I think everybody can turn on their microphone. So you can just ask your question or whatever, or put in the chat box if you don't want to speak. Or if you want to maintain your privacy, you can just put in the chat box. Okay. Am I audible? Okay. Okay. There is a question. Uh, is is there a way we can share our opinion with government? Okay. Let me open the UCC message. Definitely, it is there. I think if you're not part of our groups, we have already shared that PDF file. Let me open that. Okay. Let me. Huh. Just hang on for 1 second. I'm saving this document onto my disk and I will just show it. Okay, I have shared the screen. So basically, see this public notice. Okay, there is some history. You know, this UCC was being examined in 2016 and 2018, whatever. They had a draft also by the Law Commission of India. Now, period of 30 days from um, a date of notice. So date of notice is actually, I think, 14th of June. So we have a few more days, 30 days. And the email ID is member secretary dash lci at gov.in. Member secretary dash lci at gov.in. I have pasted that email ID in the this thing. And one thing I will suggest is that when you send, a uniform civil code feedback via email, PDF file, whatever, um, make sure to put your full name, address, mobile number, email, preferably, as much as you can, because see, you're a citizen of India, and anyway, your feedback is confidential. It is not that they're going to disclose who has sent what feedback, and is not going to be put up on a website or anything. And by you can even add your Aadhaar number. You know, see, what's the idea behind it? Because the idea is that you are showing your commitment that I am not some standing person behind an email ID. I'm a this is my email address. This is my full address. This is my Aadhaar card. And some people who may be in Delhi who can go to the Law Commission of India to represent in person. They can even add that line in the end that in the email that I would be if invited, I would like to present my views in person. So that can be a very good opportunity for people who are in Delhi or maybe even around or who are willing to travel to Delhi to present in person, their views and discuss. Because and in that scenario, the more information you share, the better, right? Yeah. Okay. So somebody has point given this in this thing that you share your name, address, age is also fine. You can share your age, contact number, Aadhaar, etc. At least address, because okay. Another question is what happens to existing ongoing cases if and when UCC is passed and laws are amended? Will the new law be applicable on current cases or only new cases? See, generally, criminal law's principle is that in criminal law there is no retrospective effect. But right now we are not on criminal law; we are on civil laws. Uh, so civil laws, I'm not very sure, but it may be possible that for current cases, I'm not very sure actually. One example I can give you is that Ranish versus Neha judgment by Supreme Court, which was issued in November 2020. The point is very clearly mentioned in that this judgment is applicable even for currently running cases. So even if a case is filed before November 2020, it's pending in the court. But from that point onwards, if there is applicability of Rajneesh versus Neha, it can be applied. And probably, there is a justifiable cause also. But I think that we have to read the draft also, because in some laws, maybe there is a provision that you don't apply it retrospectively. So we have to, this point, I'm not very sure. And this is a very, very important point, actually. Okay, now let me go to draft which I have prepared. And it's publicly available. I'll share the link also. People can just go to this link and they can copy and paste text from this if they want to. But preferably read it also, because if you blindly copy and paste, then you should be able to defend whatever you say. I think that's the main point. And there is an edit version also. So if you want to add your points, I will share, copy and paste this also in the chat box just in case. So now the point we discussed now, which was sent by somebody, I think they were good points. So right now, what I've been thinking is that, in my mind, the most important problems why the false cases are filed in matrimonial cases, legal terrorism, and all that is there are two or three main things. One is the alimony reforms are not there. What I mean by that is that in India, whether the duration of marriage is 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, there is no difference in the terms of amount of alimony what a wife may be eligible to. So Hindu Marriage Act is gender neutral in terms of alimony, but practically speaking, let's not kid ourselves. Alimony is for the wife, practically speaking, and only a wife can file, for 90-day Domestic Violence Act, and that's part of the law. There is no DV Act for men. Only a wife can file, um, allowed to file those cases, and 85% in for 90 days results in acquittal. So, I mean, let us not fool ourselves that all the cases are true and this is helping, supposed to help women. Yeah, I mean, some women are helped 15%, but what about 85% of men and their families who are suffering from these 490-day cases where they get acquitted? So, um, so this point I had made, duration of alimony should be codified into alimony consideration. Now, the codification will also have problems. Once you have a codification in law, what will happen is then, if your marriage is short, let's say your marriage is only 2 years, that's a very common thing in what we see. 60% of cases are like that only. Very short marriages. Now there may be a formula that for 2 years old marriage also, wife may have stayed only for 4 or 5 months. Let us say there is no child. Very simple, no child also. So how much alimony for the wife? 20% of some figure instead of 100%. Um, so I have made, so this is this is one point, that duration of marriage should be an important criteria in the alimony part. Let me make it even bigger and let me hide this thing. So okay. Okay, so when there are no children, lifetime alimony is a bad public policy. Okay, that's that's the point I have added, that, because see, one of the main reason why lifetime alimony is also given, or large alimony is given, is that woman has child, and she will be taking care of child for next 4, 5, 6 years, when the child is small. And by that time, even if she was able to work, her career prospects have dwindled a lot, and she won't be able to get that much salary even if she starts work after, child is 4 or 5 years old. So we need to give lifetime, I mean, large alimony to the wife. Uh, so this, I think, can be one point, that when there is no child, lifetime alimony is by itself is a wrong point. Now, I think the another major problem in Indian laws is that cruelty of wife, if proven, is not a ground to reduce the alimony. Adultery is adultery is a ground. So faulting spouse, basically, we don't have no fault divorce. So if any husband gets a divorce, it's basically based on some ground only. It's a cruelty, adultery, desertion. So that's a very huge incentive for legal terrorism. And we have so many cases we see on social media also. Woman is in adultery, she has filed a case on husband, and making a run around in courts, 490 court, DV court, this, that. She herself doesn't come to the court, she's whatever, somewhere. So, I mean, again, legal terrorism as a way to, because what is the core issue you see here? The core issue is that he's liable to pay a huge amount of alimony. That's the reason she is making him run around. That, whether I make you run around for 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years. And adultery, well, yes, husband can, if he proves, he may not be able to. But then again, the other cases with the women are able to file, his job, his life becomes very, very difficult. So if you add cruelty also and desertion also as, the on the same level as adultery, because why should you pay, alimony to a spouse who is at fault? So I think fault of spouse should be a major ground. So I have shared the judgment, occasional adultery won't bar bribe from maintenance. There is the same interim maintenance, concept that husband has alleged adultery. Okay, she has done adultery, but it's interim maintenance. And if you do it 1 or 2 times, I mean, some kind of logic has been used. I don't know. So I think what we can do is people can send this, document of California, Texas, and Massachusetts, because see, I have chosen these states because California is one of the biggest states. Texas is also one of the big states in US, and one is the East Coast. Sorry, California is West Coast. It's a different kind of culture over there. Texas is like in the middle, south of US, and then Massachusetts is one of the older states. It's on the East Coast. So all these states have very different developments in terms of how the laws evolved, and that's the reason I chosen them. There is a good sample. And so the point what I was trying to see was that all these states, they have a duration of marriage. So for example, in let's go to California. For marriages less than 10 years, general guideline is that spousal support can last for a period equal to half the length of marriage. Right. So the whole idea is that women are supposed to take care of themselves financially at some point of time. It is not indefinite. For marriages that are 10 years or more, there is no guideline, so it can last forever also. But then it will become simpler, like our Indian courts. There is no guideline. So as per the facts of the case, Rajneesh was Neha, I was tortured. Wife will say, I'm unable to work, I'm depressed, or whatever. Husband will say, what is the proof of depression? Show me certificate of psychiatrist. I mean, you can argue, and it will go on for 20 years, as is our commonly in our courts. Let's go to taxes. For marriages less than 10 years, maximum duration is limited to 5 years, same as Massachusetts. There is a 10 years timeline. Between 10 and 20, maintenance is typically up to 5 years. Now, again, this is a very good point. So I think Texas law is actually better from that point. Even now, for marriages that are 20 years or more, okay, there is a limit on that also. So even if it's a 20 years or more marriage, the court can order maintenance only for a maximum duration of 10 years. So I think there's a question like what is considered as a duration of marriage? Uh, uh, so basically, what happens is your case is in the court. Your marriage is in 2015. Now it's 2023. 8 years are over. But actually, your wife left in 2018. Only 3 years you stayed together. So is your marriage 3 years old or 8 years old? So I think this is a very good point. Maybe we should add, I will add this point, duration to the time stay together. So the time that the spouses had stayed together, because otherwise, the way our courts function, they will take on, 5-10 years. Your marriage will, keep on. They will be all the more incentive to take it for up to 20 years, and then claim, okay, my marriage lasted for 20 years or more. I am eligible for, full alimony, lifetime alimony. That will make a mockery of the marriage itself, actually. So this is also access law is, I think, very good in terms, for husbands who are fighting for limit of alimony. Okay, there is a question that what is our Indian law take on this, sir? I got married in 2020, separated in 21. See, Indian law take is very simple. You got married, you got married. That's it. So whether you file divorce today or 2 years from now or 5 years from now, you are married, and your wife is married to you, and she is eligible for alimony as per the current law. The current laws do not have any good, limitation on time period. But let me open Rajneesh versus Neha. I just got. This is a good time to discuss that, because I think many people are very unaware. Rajneesh versus Neha judgment has very good point on page number. Uh, length of. Oh, I think this is a summary. This is not the main judgment. Rajneesh. Okay, I'm opening this Rajneesh versus Neha judgment, complete judgment itself. There is one very good paragraph in this judgment on duration of marriage. Okay, so see, this is what will help any husband who is, want to reduce his alimony during divorce, whether filed by the wife or filed by the husband. And this point, I think we can add in the, okay. Okay, so I will add this in the UCC draft also. Permanent alimony, I hope you can see it. Okay, so first point is very simple, same thing what happens now. You stand of living, I earn this much, she earns this much, or she doesn't earn whatever. Okay, so I think in contemporary society, para number 2, several marriages do not last for a reasonable length of time. It may be inequitable to direct the contesting spouse to pay permanent alimony to the applicant for the rest of her life. See, they have said the rest of her life. So even the Supreme Court is very clear. This is not for husband. Alimony is being asked for by wife only. So the duration of a marriage would be a relevant factor to be taken into consideration for determining the permanent alimony to be paid to wife. To wife because of her life. It's very clear. It's not for husband. It's a gender specific. Okay, somebody has raised the hand. You can ask your question. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Oh, maybe it's a mistake. Okay. So, question.
Yeah. Sorry,
Yeah,
no, it
go
wasn't
ahead.
a mistake there. So currently, yeah. So duration of the marriage is considered from the date of marriage till the filing of divorce. Can we consider like that, or even the date of separation? For example, even in the 1 year married time, we are hardly together for like less than 100 days or less than 90 days. Will that be taken into account, or the date of filing of divorce will be taken as the duration of the marriage?
Okay, I think my audio has a problem. I could hear very little, but what I have understood is that a duration of marriage, if you have, let's say, stayed together for only for 90 days, something like that. Um, See, what will happen is there is some technicality in the law. It is not, if you stayed together for 90 days and then you waited for whatever some number of years for her to come back, maybe a few months or 1 year, and then she filed a case, or maybe she didn't file a case, and then you were waiting peacefully. Okay, no, at least I'm peaceful. Let me not disturb her. That's what commonly what we observe, until she files the case. And sometimes people say that this, yeah, you can put you in the chat box, Karthik, because it's difficult to, uh, you know, maybe there's a problem in my audio, so I can't uh, make out what you're saying. Um, so I think, see, if there is desertion, no, it's a little bit tricky point. Like if you file on the ground of desertion, desertion has a applicability of minimum 2 years. Now, what will happen? That 2 years, logically speaking, I would say that if you're able to prove desertion, then you should not include that 2 years in the duration of marriage because you have proven your point that she deserted me 2 years back, and today I am filing divorce. And why should this 2 years be, part of the marriage time? Because anyway, she's not living with me. I'm able to prove she deserted me 2 years back. Whenever the judgment comes, its judgment may come after 5 years. That's a different point. Okay, see, married in 2020, separated in November 2021, dowry filed March 2023, yet to file divorce, just battling dowry. That's what most people do, just battle dowry. And in my mind, that's not a very wise thing to do in 2021 at least. Maybe 10 years back, it was the default thing that, 190 days itself was such a huge stare in the mind of people that you didn't have any time and energy or any, thought. I mean, but at that time, we didn't have the knowledge also, about divorce and these things. And now we have a lot more knowledge. So if a wife has some cruelty on you and filing a false dowry case, a criminal case itself is a cruelty. So you can go ahead and file divorce because your divorce case will take maybe 4 or 5 years minimum. So if you wait for your acquittal, let's say you say, okay, I will get acquitted first. Now 5 years will take for acquittal, then you will file divorce. So you got the point, right? So I think this point in Rajesh was this is a very important point. So we should use this. And okay, this is what we discussed already, and this is a document which I had made. So I think my guess is if we copy and paste at least one state, we didn't copy every one of them, which you choose one state, Texas, Massachusetts, or you can go to, just go to Google. You go to Google search, you will find it, within 2 minutes. Laws, just search for Canada law for alimony or UK law for alimony and or Australian law for alimony. And the reason I'm mentioning these countries is because these are English-speaking countries, and a lot of the time our public and our social system, I mean society also looks forward to what is happening in these countries, developed countries. Our country, people will not look at France or Germany or Japan or Korea, what are their laws, but they will look at Australia, UK, Canada, because of language also. We can read we can their news, we can read directly. We can read their website directly also. So you can Google yourself, and if you find useful for duration of marriage, you add this point. So I think duration of marriage, fault of the spouse, and these 2 points if you have, and child. When there is no child, then maintenance alimony should be some limit. So these are the points, and then some good points which I have mentioned earlier, but maybe I didn't put in this particular draft as of now. That limit the interim maintenance to 6 months or 1 year. So all these points I think we can add. So what I will do is I will pick up some points from this draft and I'll copy and paste it into this, and or we'll just write my own, just to change the language with a little bit more qualified language. So and then and I think there are a few more days. So like I suggested, send your email and give your full address. You can share your Aadhaar number also, and well, but at least address and mobile number. And if you're in Delhi or if you can go to the law commission for this thing, you can say I'm willing to myself, because let me see their. Ah, see the last point. I hope you can read this. The last point says, if need be, Commission may call upon any individual or organization for personal hearing or discussion. Right. So this is an important point. So this is the thing. Now the other point is, I think a few days back, what I read was that already 8.5 lakh feedback has reached the law commission, and by now it may be maybe 10, 11 lakh easily. So, but no need to feel whether it's a good or bad thing. In a way, it's a good thing because people are engaging with lawmaking. Normally, for several of the other things, we have seen like two to three, hardly 200 to 300 people they send their feedback. I remember from child parenting, shared parenting report, some 240 or something was the number of people who have sent feedback. So compare to 40, 10 lakh or 11 lakh. What's the level of interest in UCC? So now another thing, what some people may say is, well, what's the point, when there are 10 lakh people, I'm only one person, husbands are only, few people, what difference will it make? See, difference it will make in the sense that right now the process will start. In the first initial UCC, what I feel is mainly they will take care of the religious and these kind of community-based uniformity. They'll bring in that. That itself is a humongous task. It's a huge task actually. Our alimony and law reform is actually a smaller part actually, if you think about the complexity. But sooner rather than later, alimony reform will come on the agenda. Now, whether it will take 1 year, 2 year, or 5 years, I don't know, because the reason is very simple. Currently, I think many people are unaware, and many people are focused on more about the what other communities, you know, what women of other community are suffering injustice, right? Rather than what men of my community are facing injustice in. So that's the general protective attitude of men, that they always want to protect the women first rather than saving their own life, because that's a default male tendency. It's hardwired. So, but once we have uniformity and this whole point that women in so and so community are not getting justice. So fine, UCC is passed. That is done deal. Same laws for everybody. Now everybody will realize that now women injustice is over. All those small things, big things, this is over. Now people have to discuss about Sridhan. Can you have Sridhan for 1 day of marriage? Husband has given you 10 lakh of jewelry, his family. Some of the jewelry was from generations. And you married for 1 day and decamped with all of it. I mean, does it make any logical sense? This was meant for your future generations, and you give it to one wife, and then she goes away, and your generational wealth has been taken away by somebody who's not interested in the marriage at all. So there are all the legal loopholes. So this is also preparation for that stage which will come after 1 or 2 years. Oh, I don't know the time frame, but once UCC is out of the way, I think the time frame will reduce, because right now this is such a big roadblock that without this being out of the way, it's very difficult for other things to being come into discussion, because you see on social media, you talk to anybody, he will say men have to pay alimony. Okay, yeah, but look at that female. She gets 10,000 rupees only. So we should save her first, right? That's a general tendency. Let's save on the women first. Like Titanic, men will come later. Let's save the women. So fine, now Titanic is over. We have saved the ship. Now women are safe. Now what? What's the next step? Okay. Is there any organized repository of useful precedents? That is Rajneesh versus Neha. Well, see, organized repository. I mean, we can make a shared folder. I think sometime back I had shared one folder of their acts, and in our Telegram group, somebody has shared a list of judgments. He has made a Word document nicely done. So if you're part of Telegram group, you can join the group and find the document there. But maybe what we can do is we will create a link to all these various documents and put them in one. I have already done that once, that exercise. And if somebody wants to do it, you're more than welcome. Just come join our group and see if you see whatever document is not there. I can give you access to that shared access. You can, or you can update your own and create it. Because see, the thing is, everybody wants a repository, but who will make it and who will maintain it and update it? And if you make it but nobody uses it, that's the biggest problem. So right. So I think repository is not difficult. We can easily have a shared folder, and we can. I think we should start that process. I'll add to that folder. I will create multiple folders in that. One for bare apps, one for judgments, one for etc. etc. Okay. Any more questions we have? Okay, there is one raised hand, so you can unmute and ask your question.
Sir, this is Pugaranji Armugam. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello. Sir, just now you told that 8.5 lakhs or 10 lakhs entries have come for UCC. I recently got a link stating that give a missed call to if you support to UCC. So it is not that they are telling their reforms which has to become. Just giving a missed call itself will give a support to UCC. So it is a wide angle, so we should not take into consideration that all are supporting this thing. There are various topics which UCC will cover, and that type of missed calls is quite confusing actually. So I just wanted to tell that we should give
Okay,
some points
let me.
and
I
then
just
support.
sorry to interrupt. Actually, I think my audio is like this. I can speak, but I can't hear anything properly. So what I heard was maybe you're talking some web-based tool. So I just got a few words here and there. So if you can put in the chat box, um, maybe see what I had done earlier was I had created one tool for giving feedback on live streaming, and I think some 5-10 people sent feedback from that based on the tool I had made. It's a very simple tool. You just say yes or no, and it will generate a document, and you take the document and send it to the committee email ID. So it's a very simple process. Now the problem what I found is somebody objected in one of the groups I'm part of. Somebody said no, this is copy and paste. It is spam. You're spamming the government. See, I mean, like, so okay, so it is spam. So when you vote in a democracy, you go to the voting booth in election, MP, and elections. Everybody is clicking on whatever Congress, BJP, Janata Dal, XYZ, Aam Aadmi Party. So is that spamming? I mean, like you have the same inputs. They're only the point is sending some document, even if it's the same document as somebody else, by itself, I don't think it means a spam. And that's the reason I said, if you put your full address, name, Aadhaar, at least mobile number, email ID, if not Aadhaar, that once you put that, how is it a spam? Basically, you're vouching for yourself. To give another example, let us say somebody has, in his court case, somebody has put an objection to his wife's petition, and you got his petition copy from somewhere, or maybe he gave it to you for study, and you found it's a very useful, it's a very nicely written document, and you say, okay, I will copy and paste points from that. And you made a mistake, and you copied and pasted some points in your own draft which were not valid points, which will lead you to trouble later on. And then you sign it and then set it, right? Or you use the same draft and so now once you have signed it, can you have the excuse that oh, I made a mistake in copy and pasting, so it is not my draft? See, once you sign on something, once you say it is my draft or it is my points, they become your points. And anyway, what I have shared is a public document. It's not a copyrighted thing that I'm saying I have written a book. It's under my copyright. You can't, if you write, copy and paste a paragraph, it's like, you're indulging in plagiarism. I will prosecute the report, demand so copyright violation, whatever. It's a public document. You can copy and paste from multiple sources if you want to. Just today, I have shared one document. So maybe I will take some points from that. And maybe I will modify the language. So then anyway, it won't be copy paste. But the point what I'm saying is, let us not get hung up on these things, because what I'm seeing is people are either sending some, bulldozer kind of feedback. By bulldozer, what I mean is you put everything 490 a day, police should do this, false case you should do that. UCC is not, that is not the area of UCC, right? So if you send 10 points, with 5 points are like this, what is the guarantee, they will look at the five, your draft maybe get feedback points maybe when pushed on the side very quickly because already there are like 11, 10, 11 lakhs of this thing. So you should send something which is, looks genuine. It has your address, everything. And even if it looks similar to somebody else's feedback points, it is my signature, my email ID. So I'm the one who's sending it, and I'm not sending it from XYZ email ID, right? It's my personal email ID. That's very important. So there is no spam or anything, as per my view, because I can talk on this for longer. I think it will be a waste of time. But don't get disheartened by these things. And somebody will say, no, don't copy. You write your own. I mean, what's the need to write everything again and again? Government has not said. See, have they said anything here that everybody is mandated to write their own points and send it? If they wanted to, they would have said that. No. Logically, also it doesn't make sense because anybody who has some feedback, they will learn from some sources. They will, copy from somewhere. And it's a digital age. You don't write by hand. So email itself is they have send an email. So most of us will send an email by whatever language, Hindi, English, whatever language you want to send in. So we will type it, and so we can always copy points from somewhere as long as it's a public source. It's not, nobody has any objection to it. You're copying their content. So okay, what else? Okay, I think what I will do is we'll close the discussion now because I think there are no more questions. And I will get the recording in another 2-3 hours. I'll put on YouTube. So hopefully people who were not part of it, they can also go through it. And people who were part of it, they can share it in your family or groups or whatever. And you can, I will also share this. This is already links you already, this docs.google, which I've showed you, this document. So you can copy and paste points from this. And especially the 3 points I said, alimony, fault in divorce, and if there is no child. In these 3 points, if you put, a lot of this legal terrorism can vanish. By vanish, I mean, reduce maybe 70-80%. Because false case prosecution, this and that, we know how the limitations of law are. Very rarely, cases, get prosecuted. The perjury itself is a topic which is not known in a uniform way. It's a topic by itself. So let's cut at the, strike at the root of the problem. The root problem is the unjustified alimony, lifetime alimony, short marriages. So once we remove that root of the problem, other problems like phone and JDD, they will automatically come down because what is the incentive to running courts for 4-5 years if you are going to get only maybe a very little amount of alimony at the end of it? If the wife is going to get instead of 50 lakh, which he is hoping for, she will get maybe 50,000. She's not going to basic 5 years for that kind of 50,000 rupees of alimony. So duration of marriage, that's these 4 points. If you focus on, I think everybody can focus on these, and other points you can add whatever you want. It's a free country, so child custody, shared parenting, etc., etc. There are so many points in this draft. So I'll put this point in the shared drive also. So let's use all the points whichever you like, but try to understand. Because if you copy the point, let's say you copy this point, draconian provision of section 114A, and now you don't even know, if you're not even read it, what it means. And statement like women are treated like gospel truth. Well, there's it's not in maintenance basis. So read that act. If you don't know something, don't send that feedback. That would be my advice. So send that advice which you can defend. If somebody says, okay, I'm calling you from law commission, kindly spend 5 minutes with me and explain why did you mention this point. Okay, very good. 5 points, 5 minutes. I will spend time and I will say, okay, why I am against alimony in short duration marriage because of so and so reason. And Ramesh Basu may also say the same thing. And it will create bad incentives for unscrupulous women to file cases and get alimony for very short duration marriage. Very simple. But if you say, this, I didn't understand what is this, and somebody calls me and says, okay, actually I copied from somewhere, but look at my other points. It will reduce your credibility, basically. So think from that point of view, think from larger picture. This is a stepping stone to the alimony reforms, which will come in another few years. It may not happen now, I think, because right now the focus is so much on the various personal laws to harmonize them. But once that happens, I'm telling you, in that process itself, the discussion will start. But how can we have property law? Because right now, nobody is very well aware of these laws. That there is equal property for daughters. So now the discussion will start. Oh, you have equal property for daughters. So why do you need Sridhan alimony then? Why can't parents give? So let that discussion come on the TV shows, right? It will take time. But right now, I think that discussion will not happen. But once this is get passed, during this process it will start. Why do we have all these laws if they're not being followed? So I think all that will start. Okay, so I think thank you all for joining. There was a good participation. So I will share the recording within another few hours.
Thank you, sir.